Alright, welcome back to Matt's Math and More. This is going to be an extension of Lesson 1-2, Finding Equivalent Fractions. Figured this one's worth spending another day on, just so you got it down pat. That's going to help you later on when it's time to add fractions, subtract fractions, when you need to find common denominators, when you need to simplify fractions, when you need to unsimplify fractions. Having a good base in this lesson 1-2, equivalent fractions, that'll be your key to success. What are you going to need for this one? If you're following along, you're just going to need a multiplication chart. So if you happen to have one that I gave you, I gave my class like a laminated multiplication chart with some highlighter tape on it. And they just pull the highlighter tape off. Let's see. And then you could move it around your hundreds chart. But if you don't have that, all you need is a regular old hundreds chart. You can print one from Google, anywhere, and a highlighter. You can do the same thing, same lesson that we're doing, just follow along. And this one's actually really easy, just as easy as sitting and eating grass with a big old bull. First things first, in order to have a good base with fractions, especially when you're simplifying or unsimplifying fractions, common denominators, all that kind of stuff, you just need to know something really easy. In math, there's only 4 operations that you can ever do. You can add or subtract, or you could multiply or divide. It doesn't matter if you're in elementary school math, middle school math, high school math, college math, if you work for NASA. That's really the only 4 things there are. Now, you might be adding or subtracting fractions, you might be adding or subtracting integers, tougher numbers, but really this is it. And they undo each other. If you add, how do you undo addition? You subtract. Like if I give you $5, how do we undo it? I take away $5. So they're inverse operations. They undo each other. Same with multiplying. If I multiply, how do I get rid of it? I divide. They undo each other. If I multiply 5 times 3 is 15, I could do 15 divided by 3 is 5. They undo each other. They're inverse operations. For fractions, what you really be working with and thinking about is multiplying or dividing. If you're unsimplifying and getting larger, well, you're going to multiply because multiplication gets you larger. If you're simplifying and getting smaller, you're going to divide because division gets you smaller. So for tonight, let's just practice equivalent fractions. How do you find them? What's the easiest way to do it? I find the easiest way to do it is to use a multiplication chart. Let me show you. Let's say we're starting with the fraction 2/5. How are you going to get a whole bunch of equivalent fractions to 2/5? In this case, I'm going to multiply to get larger. Here's all I would do. Take your hundreds chart. I keep calling it a hundreds chart. It's really not a hundreds chart. It goes to 100. This is a multiplication chart. We have 2/5. So I'm going to highlight the 2 column. Excuse me, that's not a column either. That's a row. These are columns. These are rows. So like 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. So this 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. This just shows you your multiplication tables for 2. And I said we're going to deal with 2/5. So we're going to make the other one 5. Here's 2/5. Oops. Let's get that straight. 2/5. So 5 times 1, 5 times 2, 5 times 3, 5 times 4. This is your 5s charts. Now, here's where it gets really easy. Our intro fraction is 2/5, so you start here at 2/5. What's the first equivalent fraction? 4/10. See, 2 times 2 is 4, 5 times 2 is 10. So 4/10, that's equivalent. Let's go back to the 2/5. What's the next equivalent fraction? Well, I did times 2, so now I'm going to do times 3. 2 times 3, 5 times 3. Oh, 6/15. That's it. Next fraction, 2 times 5. Let's see, 2/5. I could do fourths. 2 times 4 is 8. 5 times 8 is 20. Excuse me, 5 times 4 is 20. 8/20. These are what's called equivalent fractions. See, if you were to just look at it this way, whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom. Times 2, times 2. Times 3, times 3. Times 4, times 4. So fractions really aren't so scary. All you do is use a hundreds chart, multiplication table, highlight your numerator and your denominator, and find the equivalent fractions. That's going to be very helpful when you're simplifying or unsimplifying or finding common denominators. Here's a quick example of what my extension activity looks like. I just gave a bunch of fractions: 3/4, 4/7, 6/9, 5/8, and just some lines to make equivalent fractions with. The rest of the kids' responsibility: take your multiplication chart, take your tape or your highlighters, and just find the equivalent fractions for each one. Eating grass with a big old bull. I would do it.
Told you that would be easy.